Happy February. I want to talk to you about a couple of books, including Babbit. I'm probably going to make a whole separate video talking just about Babbit, but briefly on an overview, I definitely enjoyed that book. It talks about George Babbit is a real estate agent who's just dissatisfied with his life, pretty much. Talks about the Republicans, Presbyterians. He's a member of the Elk Lodge. He was flipping houses, I guess, from 8,000 to 24,000. He was like real estate speculator, real estate gambling, like pretty much. It does mention the earth is flat. It talks a lot about real estate insides, like these people knew the area, they knew the surgeons, the firemen. Talks about being anti-union and pro-employer. Title insurance. Republicans, they were playing poker, beer, cigars. The book is in the 1920s, and it's like right around the time when the cars were being from like open carriages to closed cars, and the real estate speculating behind what that would do. It takes place in a fictional town of Zenith, and the first picture that it paints in your mind, is towers and skyscrapers, an office building, all that you could see above this mist. And then, when you go down under the mist, you see like grotesque old houses. And then, men with lunch boxes walking around, it's like a society. It was the residential district of Zenith was called the Floral Heights Society. The narrator, whatever YouTube narrator had, was great. It read like a commercial, because he was so into like household appliances, because he was a real estate agent. So I want to make a whole book on that. Other books I read in January was my first Sherlock Holmes, probably in a really long time. That's Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I read Scandal in Bohemia, which is a short story, and because it's short, they do put a lot of stuff in there really fast, but it's pretty much about the royal family of Bohemia trying to get a dick pic back off Irene Adler. She had like a compromising photo. And I guess Irene Adler is noted as the first woman to outsmart Sherlock Holmes. I did read Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and that was The Death of the Albatross. Trumpet Major by Thomas Hardy. That's a love triangle about a sailor named Bob Loveday and a trumpet player named John Loveday and a third guy, I think I have his name here somewhere, Festus Derriman. Anyway, and then the two brothers, John and Bob Loveday, have a dad named Miller Loveday, and he ends up with Anne's mom, and he wanted the trumpet player son to end up with the woman Anne. This book was set in front of the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon Bonaparte, an emperor from the French, talks about the yeoman cavalry. I also read a couple poems by Stephen Crane. War is Kind. That's probably the first poem that made me cry this year. Also, Truth Said the Traveler. It says, truth is a mighty fortress, and it is. Because there's nothing they could do. It's the truth. whether they like it or not. I also read a dark brown dog or brown dog by Stephen Crane about a talking dog, praying dog, apologizing dog. I read Ernest Hemingway, The Snows of Kilamanjaro. Ernest Hemingway is a really good writer. He, writes in a dialect that's really kind of how we speak now, where some of the older books are like, a lot of words that we don't recognize. But Ernest Hemingway is really good. Snows of Kilimanjaro is about a man that has gangrene in Africa, Tanzania. I guess Mount Kilimanjaro is a volcano. I really liked that it had animals, and it had a leopard, a hyena, a Tommy ram. I looked that up. It said it was like an antelope or a gazelle. He got a little frisky with his wife. Gangrene. He said painless is how you know there's a problem. I read The Eclipse by James Fenimore Cooper about an eclipse in Cooperstown, New York in 1806 in the summer. That story quickly goes haywire with a teacher killing a little girl. She had a lisp. I wasn't ready for that book. Reading a poem of Walt Whitman. I read I Hear America Singing, and it talks about the workers, including mechanics, carpenters, masons, the boatmen, mothers, woodcutters, shoemakers. If I had to rename that book, I would call it The Song of Private Property. I read by Oscar Wilde a short story called The Sphinx. It was about a woman that would rent these rooms and just sit there. And as a person who's tired, I kind of get it. But they didn't get it, and they were spying on her. It talks about the House of Peers, Oxford. They thought she had a secret. Is that all that I'm up to? That might be it. Oh, Walt Whitman Half-Breed. That was about a half-breed named Bodo. Oh, Tennessee Williams, Crazy Night. Tennessee Williams is mind-blowing, isn't it? Like, if you have a minute, please go to this playlist and look for the 3 videos I made on Tennessee Williams already, because it'll blow your mind. But this was called Crazy Night. It was 1930. It was the end of a semester. These kids were drinking whiskey. They were freshmen. There was a party. All right. I think that gets us up to date. So I'm going to pick a new book for February. What are you reading? Put it in the comments.